Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are here for the seminar for the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce, how to reduce your property tax. We have the attorney Tarek Baydoun. He will explain and answer some questions related to property tax for commercial and residential. The city of Hamtramck, Dearborn, and Detroit, and the surrounding area. That's the main topic, Please help me welcome Attorney Tarek Baydoun.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for welcoming me, bashkurukum, and inshallah we can take some questions from anybody about business and real estate law after if you want. But this is very important to the community. We've been able to save over $50 million in property taxes over the past 7 years that we've been doing this because when we get your property taxes lower, they stay lower. They're capped, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But this is a very important issue because it's one of the easiest ways to help a business that may, well, any business, but especially those who are struggling. They don't know how easy this can be. And I don't mean to make it sound easy, but most of the properties in Hamtramck and Detroit and other areas, Melvindale, that we have, Yemeni, are very, large. Those are the highest taxed areas they happen to be, even in Dearborn for commercial, but overtaxed. And I'm going to talk about that. So the Meridian Law Group is my law firm. We're in Dearborn. We have a lot of clients from the community. We're proud of that. The clients that we have usually come to us when their taxes are too high and they want to complain about the taxes being too high. But the important thing that everybody needs to know is we have to look at the valuation. So the property tax rate that your building is being taxed on is not necessarily the problem that we can handle. We can't handle that. What we can handle is when they're over assessing the value of your property. So if the building that we were sitting in was worth $2 million, but it was being taxed at $4 million, our job is to get the government to agree that the building is worth $2 million. And by doing so, we would be able to reduce the property taxes by half. So that's how this works. You receive every year a notice in the mail. You should receive it. If you're in Detroit and you haven't received it yet, you have a problem, you need to contact us right away. But we've heard that a lot of people have not received their assessments, even though the deadline is on the 18th, I believe, for Detroit residential properties tax appeals. So when you receive your assessment once a year, on there you will see deadlines. For residential, you have to go to the local board of review. For commercial, you can go to the state. You don't have to go to the local board of review. And we often don't because they usually don't do anything. We don't charge any money up front. We don't charge money for the filing fee. We don't charge money for the appraisal. I know a lot of people do. When we take these things on, we take them on because we're in the same boat as you. We want to save you money if we can. And if we can't, we want to take the risk off of you. And so we found that to be the best way. When you get these notices, it doesn't hurt to let somebody take a look at it. If you feel like you're being overtaxed, you probably are. If you feel like they're overvaluing your property, especially commercial business owners. When you get those, if you would like us to take a look at it, or anyone to take a look at it, you should probably get the assessment paper to them. If you don't get it on time, don't wait. Contact us anyway. But you can actually send us the assessment. Take a picture. You can send it to 313-288-8529. That's actually the office number too. Our offices are in Dearborn, but you can text the assessment paper to 313-288-8529, and we have people who will look over it. We'll give you a free opinion. It won't cost you anything. But I'm going to explain how this works. So you have three numbers that are going to be on your assessment, and it is a little confusing, so I don't want to confuse anybody. The three numbers are the true cash value. This is the number, the value that they say your property is worth. if you believe that that's too high, then the other two numbers are important. The SEV is 50% of that. State equalized value is 50% of the true cash value. So divide by 2. Then you have another number called the taxable value, TV. That number is the actual number that you're being taxed on. That number is supposed to be about 50% of what your actual value is, but it's capped if you own your property over a long period of time. It cannot go up more than 5% a year, or the actual inflation rate, the lesser of the two. So when we get your taxes lower and you don't transfer the property, it's capped. This is a big benefit to people. And a lot of people don't know that, and when they transfer the property, they're kind of surprised. It's good to consult with an attorney before doing that, and you know, every situation is different. But December 31st of the 2016 year was the year on which your property should be valued for the notice that you're going to receive this year. Every year, December 31st is the day. So if something major happened to your property in the, you know, between last year, December 31st, and this year, December 31st, the city may not know about it. That's something you have to pay attention to. It can affect the value. So we have to look at the value on that day, divide it by 2, and that should be your taxable value, if not lower. If it's too high, the value is too high, we're finding that we're winning these cases. Actually, out of the commercial cases we took last year, alhamdulillah, we didn't really lose one. We didn't get a reduction on it, and the average reduction was over 50%. And we only had to go to court on 3 of them. So this is good for everybody to think about doing if they need the help. Principal residence, should we stop at that one, or do you want to talk about principal residence exemption? Homestead?
You could continue.
Okay. So we'll talk about the homestead. This is every person or couple in Michigan, husband, wife, can have one homestead exemption. And what that means is you get to have the house that you live in, or you don't live in if you're traveling, that's fine. You get 18 mils. I don't want to get too complicated. You get a reduction on the taxes, property taxes, for that one home.
I want to tell you this so you wouldn't. Hold on. You got penny? Yeah, right.
Watch your hand. I'm not going to live TV.
That's okay, that's fine.
لا لا هو راخي. جالس يلعب به. We want to make sure it's tying up.
Okay.
I think no, it might be.
Jamal, you're live. It's okay, it's fine. It's good.
No problem. So the principal residence exemption can be appealed. People are getting their bills, their assessments, or they're transferring the properties. They're not remembering to file something called a principal residence exemption affidavit. It says, this is my home, tells the state. And if you don't have a principal residence exemption on file, you're paying too much taxes. But that one we can fix, not only for this year, for the last 3 years. So if you have someone who's in a house, husband and wife for instance, and you look at that assessment paper, it says PRE 0. You have to ask that person, do you have another house? If they say no, tell them, well, why don't you have this as a homestead? Because on a $100,000 house, just to give you an example, this is $900 a year.
Oh, wow.
So people are overpaying. If we go back 3 years, or even 4, because by that year it might be that same year they paid already, you can see, these people can get some money back. On the flip side, you got to be careful when you sell a house that you rescind the old principal residence exemption. And this is particularly important in Yemeni, and you all know why. We don't like to use all the realtors and title companies all the time, because we view it as a waste of money, and it is to a certain degree. But these things, we need to teach people how to do them. They're not that complicated, and thankfully they can be fixed going back 3-4 years. So
is there a fee? Is there a fee if you if you didn't register your homestead? What is that fee? For example, for the state?
From the state? No. There's no fee for not registering it. There's a fee if you don't rescind your old one
see.
and you have two, the state will catch up 2, 3, 4 years later and send you a bill or an audit and say, we need our money back for the first one because you took an exemption on 2 homes. That's the problem, and people are getting those letters. They do get them. But if they are not claiming them, there's no fee for us to go back and get it for them. We take from the savings. We don't actually,
And if I have another question. If I have 2 properties in Michigan, one of them is a camp property, say like in Muskegon, Michigan, that I have as a cottage with the waterfront, and I have my principal residence that I live in Sterling Heights. Can I claim that as a homestead as well?
No, you can't. You can claim 50-50 if you want to. You're going to have to look at the value. If the value of the Sterling Heights home is more, you want to keep it on the Sterling Heights home.
I see, okay.
But, there are, other ways. I mean, if the other house is not in your name and someone else is living in it, then they can get a homestead even if they're not titled.
If it's under my wife's name, for example, can she, or it has to be just basically for the 2 of us? I mean, it has to be the same.
It applies to both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're married, you only get one.
So it's per state. If it was Florida, it would be different.
Correct. So you can have a Michigan one and a Florida one, is my understanding. I'm not a Florida attorney, but
Correct.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Then. Thank you.
No problem. The capping, how that works. If go back to the scenario where we reduce the valuation of this property, let's say from $4 million to $2 million, and we're able to save a lot of money. Well, for the next 10 years, just for example, if the ownership doesn't change, the amount saved is tremendous because it's not just the amount that 1 year, it's times 10, and there's a 5% increase cap. So if you look at, times 10 with a 5% increase in the lower number, the $2 million with the 5% increase, you're saving a lot more even. So there is a cap. I don't know how long this is going to stay in Michigan. It's been that way for decades. I don't think it's going to change right away. It helps people who stay in their property a long time. So when you transfer, be careful, especially if you're transferring. There are ways to keep your property from uncapping, legal ways. I mean, that, a lot of people don't take advantage of because, they don't view, their brother or their mother as someone who's exempt from the uncapping if you're transferring to that person, when in fact they are. So before you actually turn in the transfer affidavit, make sure you consult with someone who knows if you're even confused a little bit. Does anybody have any questions about that kind of stuff?
How I know is my house, they have the right value?
You may have an opinion. It's okay to be wrong. What we do is we go through hundreds every year, and Ben could probably do this very fast. He's a realtor. Just people's opinions, and then we verify our opinions, of course, with additional analysis. So if you have a feeling that it is, or if you're not sure and you just want to get it checked out, you can let somebody look at it, and we can do that.
We have a free market analysis value. You just,
Beautiful.
Yes, I have a question. If they file an appeal and they accept to reduce the property tax, can they go back and increase it? Is there any limited, captive rate? How much can they increase every year?
So they can value it the next year at the same value if they want. But the taxable value, the TV, cannot go up more than 5%, or the rate of inflation, the lower of the two. So the maximum it can go up that your actual taxes go up, which is the important thing, right?
Yeah.
Is the 5%. So this is important because they can say whatever they want. The taxable value is what matters. And so that you might see it again the next year. They're just going through the assessment. They don't do one-by-one assessments, they do. So people get the assessment again. They're like, oh, my taxes went up again. I said, no, look at the other number. The TV is the one that cannot go up, and that affects your tax bill.
Thank you.
A friend of mine, he owns a house here in Michigan, in Hamtramck, and he's a resident of New York State. He's not renting it, his relative live on it, he come back and forth, but the city, they insist to charge him as a commercial. Can they do that? Because they said he doesn't claim his tax here, and he doesn't have a Michigan ID.
The person living in the house doesn't have a Michigan ID?
The owner of the house,
The owner.
he is from New York State, but
Yeah.
he come back and forth, and his relative live on it. He doesn't charge them, but this county and the city, they charge him a commercial as if he was renting it.
Investment, yeah.
Yeah.
As investment.
There's ways to save it. There could be a land contract, for instance. There could be a number of ways. He's entitled to one homestead, even if he doesn't live in it
Mhm.
full time. If it's his only residence in the state, sometimes you have to fight them a little bit because they don't always know the law, or they don't always apply it the way it's supposed to be applied. They apply it the way that's most favorable to the city sometimes. So this is a good example. It sounds like he's entitled to have one. He doesn't have to tell them he's renting it. He can, in my opinion, he can just, he doesn't have to lie to them either. He can tell them, this is my only Michigan home. You have to give me a principal residence exemption. And we've done that before.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So,
Yeah, I have a question about if you do pay your tax once a year, right? So, do they give you the government or the Wayne County or any other counties in Flood County, for example, or anyone? Do they give you arrangements to pay it, or you have to pay all your property tax once at one time?
So your bill, depending on the city, they may give you more time, but the deadline is what it says on your bill. Some cities, they allow you to pay it in installments, but if you don't pay it in installments, let's say you miss an installment on accident, then it happens. They may charge you a penalty and interest.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, and we also had some people in the community losing their homes because there was an unfortunate situation where they were entering into payment agreements and they thought they were okay, and the city gave the county gave the cities their homes. The cities gave some other people their homes. So there's a problem there too. If anyone has any uncollected taxes or has any question about whether it's paid, don't just listen to the city. Don't just listen to the county. Get verification. There's real estate agents who are willing to help. There's attorneys who are willing to help. This is important because we had some people, and we're still fighting for some people's homes, but we had to fight for some people's homes back. It was not good, and it's still going on. It's a problem.
And how long do you have, like, for example, if you are late to pay your taxes, how long you have months or weeks to pay before the city takes your home? Or,
You have 20. It's about 24 months total.
24 months.
But the problem with that is sometimes you enter into an agreement or something like this, and it's not honored. Then you have a big problem. Or you pay an amount. The interest keeps rising every day, every month. There's a higher amount owed. So sometimes they'll get close, and there will be some money left over. It's not a situation anyone wants to be in. It's a situation that some people, unfortunately, they found themselves in. And it's very dangerous now in Wayne County in Southeast Michigan, so we don't want anybody to get caught up in that. Because they're not doing it to homes that have mortgages. They're doing it only to homes. They don't mess with the banks, obviously. Right?
To the homes you own, you
The homes that are paid off.
Already.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so that's why I'm mentioning it here, because I know most of our homes are paid off.
I do have another question in regards to the Wayne County auction. I bought some properties in Dearborn and Hamtramck. Most of them are lots, just empty lots. I paid them free and clear. I have the deed on them from Wayne County. A year later, Wayne County come back and said that they sold us the properties by mistake and they want to receive these properties back. They want us to claim them back to them or sell it back to them for the same amount. I refused, and now I'm in like a court battle with them trying to keep these properties because I bought them for a reason. They are mine. They cannot forcefully take them back from me?
Yes and no. In your case, it doesn't sound like they can. I have to look at the case. The bigger problem we have is they're being selective, and I'm just going to say it's corruption. Plain and simple, it's corruption. They're taking certain properties back to give to other people, and they're not taking certain properties back that they should have never took in the first place. And they're sending you guys, you invest in the tax auction. They send bills after you buy the property that you should never be getting. So if you receive bills after the tax auction for inspection,
Tickets.
water, tickets, none of those can survive past December of that year that you bought it. And so if you bought it in September, everything that was due as of that December is no longer on the property. But they still send these bills and people are paying them. And even if you paid it, if it's enough money that you think you want to get it back, come talk to us. I mean, we're willing to talk to you. But a lot of people don't know that it's a problem.
Very good. Thank you for asking that question.
My pleasure.
I have a question. They're asking about the new ownership. When someone purchases a property, does this affect their tax, increase their tax?
So yeah, in the sense that every year it's reassessed. If a property was capped, the value and the taxation, like we talked about earlier, and you sell it to a stranger, someone who's not under the list of exemptions, the property becomes uncapped. So if the property is worth 150, but you're being taxed at 100, and you sell, and the property is reassessed at 150, the new owner is going to pay on 150. So this is something that the realtor should look at and say, this property is capped, so it's actually going to go up higher.
This, the second question, what about if they did claim it or sold it to a relative, a close relative? Does that apply under a new ownership, or they could be exempt?
There is an exemption for the close relatives, and that's defined on the affidavit. It's one of the boxes to check off. And this affidavit needs to be turned in within 45 days. And a lot of our people, they're doing the deed, but not the affidavit. And you got to keep a copy because sometimes they lose them or they claim you didn't turn them in. So this is important too.
This is where they charge the $200.
They can, yeah.
If it's past 45 days, you don't register, then they charge $200.
They can, yeah.
$5 a day.
Some of them don't, but some of them do. It's up to the city. But always keep a copy.
One more question regarding, I don't know if we're done with this part, the residential part.
Sure.
In commercial real estate, if you bought a business and the real estate together, say for $1 million, what can I depreciate from that price on a yearly basis? What can I depreciate? Is it better for me to depreciate the building, the real estate, or the business part of it, which is the equipment, or can I do both?
This is something you need to ask an accountant, to be honest with you,
Okay.
because my job is to lower your taxable value, and I'm not qualified to tell you in your circumstance, which one you should depreciate, because that's really doesn't affect the value. It affects the way you pay taxes. But I'm sorry.
Very good. It's okay. No problem. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have someone here to answer that one.
One more question for the homestead. That's about the residential. The homestead, if the person did not file the homestead exemption, can he go back? And how long can he go back if yes?
Yes, 3 years. If someone does not file a homestead exemption, we can go back 3 years on a $100,000 home, valued at $100,000. That's $900. Just to give you an example, same $200,000, $1,800. If you look at that over 3 years, possibly even 4 years, you could get some good money back. That's a good thing because a lot of people don't find out until later. And we've been able to bring people some money back. But even when we get the refunds, it's good to use an attorney because sometimes they don't send the full refund. Like they won't send the winter, they'll send the summer. And their calculations are often wrong. But we usually catch those things in the community. Any other questions? Anything business, real estate?
When you buy the house, how long, when you receive your title to your house, how long they take?
At the tax auction?
No, the title for the house. Like,
Who you're buying from?
I'm here in Dearborn.
From a person?
It's from real estate,
Okay, from a real estate agent. So they should give you a deed,
Yeah, I get
a
it.
copy at the closing. That's all you need.
Oh, I don't receive anything from the state? I mean, for the city or something?
No, that says I have the deed downtown, and you have a copy. That's it.
Okay.
It's not like a car. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It is actually kind of like a car because if you think about it, they have your title on file at the Secretary of State. You just have basically a title that you can sell. So the deed has to be registered, and then you have a copy, and that's it. no problem. Recorded. Did you have some questions about LLCs or?
Yeah, for the commercial, they're asked, can you just explain the benefits of a business under LLC or under INC or under his personal name? What's the difference and what's the benefit, as far as the liability and the tax too? Is this will be different if it's a person under LLC or INC?
Well, I can answer half that question, and the other half you gotta talk to the accountant. Are there any accountants here?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'm not gonna offend anybody then. The filing fee and the tax preparation fee is higher on an Inc. So if you don't need an Inc., don't get an Inc. There's no added benefit to an Inc. at all. LLC is meant to simplify things. So if you're gonna own properties, for instance, an Inc. almost never makes sense. From my perspective, it just costs more money. Go with the LLC, single member LLC. You can do not almost everything you can do with an Inc. And you decide how to be taxed, and your accountant can tell you that. But it's a short question, short answer.
But for the property, the tax.
Oh no,
same
no
for
difference.
the value.
No. Yeah, but you can't have. Obviously, you can't have a homestead.
Yeah, in the commercial.
In a business, yeah. So. But it makes sense to have LLC, especially if you're going to own these houses free and clear. Because if you have 10 houses and somebody sues you, God forbid, for $1 million, someone messes up big time. All of the houses in your name, they can reach if they win a judgment against you. But if you have an LLC to separate yourself in these houses, maybe even an LLC for each house is possible. That's not a bad thing, but definitely at least one LLC, so that if you get sued personally, your LLC is not liable, and vice versa. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you own just one house, you do LLC say?
If you own your house and
Just one house.
rental house?
No, just my house.
No, you don't want an LLC then. No. Yeah. Because you can't get the homestead.
The homestead. Yeah, it's more than one.
Yeah, okay.
It's for the rental homes and those kind of things.
The second question is for the commercial. Is there a difference between a commercial like in the value and the codes? You see like this is code C1, C2, C3.
Zoning.
The zoning, but is it different like between industrial? If it's zoned as industrial, you're not using it as industrial. You want to use it as offices or as a different use if you want to change that. Yeah.
We have to be very careful with these things because real estate agents often don't know, and cities often give the wrong idea to people before they buy the property, and then they find out, it's not going to work because it's in the wrong zoning, and then we have to try to get them a variance, and then we have to go sit in front of 5 or more people to try to convince them to give us a variance, and that process takes long. Sometimes we have to go to court. We've had to do that for masajid, we've had to do that for businesses. If that happens, come to us. If you have questions about zoning, come to us. Every situation is different, but some zoning variances are easier than others because we can show, okay, for instance, in Sterling Heights, you granted this same variance 20 times in 2 square miles. Why are you not granting this other one? So that's really work that you don't want to have to do. But sometimes you need to do it. It's expected. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to buy a property and then find out later, I can't even have a gas station here, for instance, or something like this. It's not possible. That's difficult.
Okay, thank you.
I have a property under my corporate name, but when I want to get like insurance for it, I only could get for fire, which was only 2 companies in Michigan Basic and another company, I don't remember it. But it was only for fire, no other benefit like anybody foul or robbery, like breaking in. Is there any other companies, or they do that for all corporations?
Is that rental insurance?
Yeah, he's an investor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know the problem. It's a real problem. Lloyd's of London underwrites certain agents, but I don't know if they sell one or two, and they're always changing. But there are a few agencies. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember their names. Maybe if I remember, I'll get back to you on those. But maybe that's a good thing, because there's a lot of property owners to find somebody. I'm sure someone would like all of your business.
Right, because like even when they give you the policy,
Yeah.
they want to send an inspector and want to make sure you live in that, because
If it's empty, it's ridiculously
yeah, even
expensive. They won't even
sometimes
insure.
you need to do some work on the house.
Yeah.
You can't get no insurance in that period of a time.
I know. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
What is your advice to the people who are going to buy a new house for first time? And also, Mr. Abdullah said the insurance. Is it necessary to have insurance first time you buy it and it's paid off? You not throw the bank. So, what is your advice for any people? Like, I have friends and you myself thinking to buy a house. So, what advice when you go buy a house?
I always advise people who are buying a property to either have a lawyer look at it, or a title company. If you don't want to buy the title insurance, you can probably do it cheaper with an attorney to just look at the things that need to be looked at. You're looking for liens not just at the register of deeds. There are things like judgment liens. The owner has a judgment and there's a lien. It may be recorded, they may not find it. It may not be recorded, it may be recorded later. There's IRS liens, there's UCC liens, there's a lot of different other kinds of liens that can be affecting a property, that it's not easy to just know, oh, okay, it's free and clear. The person selling it to you might not even be lying to you. They may just not know. I mean, it could be that simple. It may be from before them. So when you're investing that much money, especially, I mean, the banks won't do it without buying title insurance, because they know how possible this is. So title insurance is advisable. I mean, it's the best. But if you want to save some money, go to the most qualified person that you can afford, to look at it for you, give you an opinion.
Yeah. By the way, how about the agents that want to work to help you buy a house? Do they know all these facts about houses, like you say, the liens and judgments? Some of them they know, or they don't know at all. They just want get the benefit and sell the house, make some money, and go.
I don't want to generalize. Some of them know what they're doing. On that, they're not supposed to know what they're doing on that. That's like extra, They're not. That would make them like a title agent. But they like to help, so they figure this stuff out. But even some of them, I've seen some of them have made mistakes and missed things because they don't have access to the same stuff that a title company would. The only other person that would, in most states, they don't require title insurance. It would be the lawyer, The lawyer can also do your contract, can also do everything else. So I have a lot of people that come to our office from this community, and definitely our community here. And they say, okay, can you just do the whole thing and make sure it's safe? And I'm glad to do that. But there are not a lot of people that can, unfortunately, it's not easy. And it's a big responsibility. If I tell you your house, you're good, you're safe, it's like you're becoming an insurance company almost,
Does the inspection also help? Like, let's say somebody to do inspection before I sign the contract or I buy that house.
Inspection of the house?
Yeah, inspection of the house before you buy. Is it a good idea, or does it make any difference?
Always.
Always usually.
You are assumed in almost every contract in Michigan law to have the opportunity to inspect it, and that you inspected it. And the seller is only responsible for things that you could not find in an inspection, even if you didn't do the inspection. So you're assumed to have done an inspection, and they have to have hidden it from you. They have to have known about it. So imagine, you're going to go back to the seller, you have nothing to stand on. Unless, you think it's going to be a good deal no matter what, you should always have an inspection.
So the inspection help you, like, for example, to initiate your talk, or what you call show, for example, the seller if something wrong, right?
Yeah, the purchase contract should allow you a certain time to get back out of the contract if the inspection fails. Usually that's the case. Not always, but that's in every standard form I've seen.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And I have questions.
Yeah.
My question is, I bought my house back in 2000. And this house cost me a lot of money. And while I was working, I was able to pay the tax back then. Right now, I'm retired. I don't make that much money to pay my taxes. My taxes is about $6,500 a year. How can I reduce the tax? How can I mean, what's the best way to yeah, to reduce my home tax?
Ustaz, I've been to your house and I think it's a little bit overtaxed, so bring me the assessment, inshallah khair.
Inshallah. Thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem.
Question? Brother, I have a question here.
If I were to give you a scenario that I have all the information like state equalized value, the zoning and all that, would you be able to tell me how much tax I should be charged or estimate?
If I had a valuation, if I knew what the value was, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I have the taxable value and the assessed value. Would you be able to tell me how much I should be paying?
Yeah, and but I have to go on the state website and see your city. It's called millage rate. So then you take that number, divide it by 1,000, multiply it by the millage rate. It's not too hard, but yeah, the answer is yes. If you give me the assessment paper, it'll have all that information on it. We can double check. But it's based on the city because, like, you know, the rate times the value is how we get the.
What's the millage rate for Detroit? Would you happen to know?
0.83, I think.
0.83. You take that number and you said I divide it by 1,000.
Multiply that by the SEV. So divide the value. Do you have the paper in front of you?
Yep. I have the SEV right here.
Well, look at the taxable value if you have it in
Taxable
front of you.
value is let's see. Taxable value is 21,200.
Okay, so for every $1,000 in taxable value, your taxes are $82. So 21 times about 82, 21 point whatever times about 82.
21 times.
Or 80, it might be 86 now, sorry. Is it commercial or residential off one?
It's commercial.
Oh, so it's higher than that actually.
So about how much? Because right now
I'll give you the rate if you want after, no problem.
they're charging me like $2,000.
Yeah, okay.
Is that a lot, or is that for estimate?
I told you it was a little higher
Yeah.
than 82. It might be 89, 90. I don't know.
Well, that's just for like, that's not yearly. That's just for like, I think the winter or something like that.
The summer is going to be the bigger one. But if you want, we'll look at it. I'll give you the details, no problem. We can take individual cases.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Tarek, I have a question. When I look online or internet about houses, like they have tax summer and winter summer. I mean, winter tax and summer taxes. Why they divide it? Like why they don't put this together? Like just to make you understand, or just what is the reason for that?
The county only. The law is very complicated, but to simplify it, the county only adds to the winter tax. There's only certain things that can go on the winter tax. Why they do that makes absolutely no sense to me, but it is what it is. The total tax rate is the one you're going to find. I have the chart. Thank you. Fine, thank you. The total tax rate, annual tax rate, is on the online for every city, the state's website. That should be the Department of Treasury, maybe. But I have the spreadsheet, and it changes every year, of course. But that total tax rate is how much you will pay for every $1,000 of taxable value, and it's different for commercial and residential. And then there's personal property tax. This is the stuff that they're sending you now, the affidavit. Tell me what you own in your business. Make sure you fill that out. And if you own less than $80,000 worth of stuff, make sure you get the exemption. Otherwise, they're going to tax you. I think some of you are nodding your head because you know what I'm talking about, right? You're getting a letter now. It's asking you what do you have inside your business that you own.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another thing. Another thing is the sewer taxes. They're charging extra fees for water and sewage based on the square footage of your lot. If anybody gets property like that, property taxes are too high because of that reason. We need to look at that too, because that's something that nobody really understands yet. It's a new thing.
Is there a rate for the you know, when they do the business assessment, the tax for the equipment that you have or the property that you own, what is there a percentage? How do they figure that number out?
What the rate is, I don't know. Thankfully, I haven't had to pay it yet personally, but it's based on your own valuation, which is yeah.
So I can say it's worth say $50,000 or $5,000. They can't argue with me about that, or they can.
They can if they want to, but usually they won't. Your problem is if you fill up something on your tax returns, right? You're talking about depreciation of that stuff. You want it to match, right?
Okay.
And you're filing that with the state. Both are being filed with the state. So.
And do they compare insurance to that? Like, okay, well, you're insuring it for this much because your thing is worth this much.
They don't know about your insurance.
They don't.
No.
So they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very good to know.
But the insurance may ask you to see the same stuff.
Yeah, I have a question from Abul Mu'tazim. He's watching us live right now. And his question is, when an individual or a family don't have to pay tax, or their property tax can be waived?
When they're in poverty, if they're masakin, they need money. They're in poverty. There's an application every year. You need to fill it out. And I should have mentioned that. There are some people that shouldn't be paying taxes at all. The law says if you are in poverty, you should not be paying property taxes. Believe it or not, this is the truth.
What is the poverty guidelines?
It's 125% of the federal poverty rate. So if they're on government assistance in a major way, they're probably in poverty. But they need to apply every year, and they need to apply on time.
Okay. Is that like under 7,000, 7,500? Some of the people that are watching, they don't know the numbers.
Depending on the size of the family, I believe a family of 4 is around 20,000 income. Family of 2, probably a little less, maybe 16. I'm just giving you wrong numbers, but those guidelines are online at the federal government. I've never actually filled those out, but we know that some people do get granted those, and if somebody needs them, they should. I didn't really come to talk about that, though I'm happy to talk about it because people really need it.
We appreciate it. We got a lot of people that are watching, and it's some of the questions that I know that people are curious about. There's another question that if somebody's filing for tax returns, and I know this is off the subject that we're here today about, but when somebody's filing for the taxes, a lot of people didn't have insurance, under the Obamacare.
Yeah.
So now, a lot of my friends are calling me, they're saying they just charged me $1,500 because I didn't have insurance. So is that a true fact, or is that something that maybe the accountants that are filling these papers don't understand what's going on?
So if you don't have insurance and you were given...
That's health insurance.
Yeah, if you don't have health insurance and you were not entitled to Medicaid, but you chose not to buy insurance, there is a penalty. And that is part of the law, and they will get it. Now, they should always check with the accountant to make sure that this is correct, and it cannot be corrected. But yeah, there is that was part of the law, and we're not sure how it's going to look going forward, but I don't think it's going to change at least for a year or two. Who knows?
So basically, if you qualified for Medicare or Medicaid, if you had that, then you're okay. You don't have to pay that fee.
That's right.
But if you did not have health insurance, period, then you will be charged a fee from the IRS, and that will be deducted from your tax return, or you will have to pay it if you didn't have any tax return.
It's a penalty for not buying insurance. Basically, they want everybody covered so that you don't become a cost. If something, God forbid, catastrophic happens to you, you don't become a huge cost. So this usually happens when the rest of the family is covered, but maybe the father isn't, or the head of the household, and he doesn't buy it. For instance, he has it for his family. He doesn't buy it for himself. That sometimes happens. He gets the penalty for himself.
And there's a form that people are supposed to be receiving in the mail, and they have to take that to get their taxes done. Do you know what's the form called? So that way people are paying attention to that form that they have to take in.
The healthcare.gov form?
Yes.
I don't know what it's called. It does say important tax information.
So it would come from the DHS, which is like from their welfare office or the Medicaid office?
No, I believe it comes from the federal government. Healthcare.gov.
Okay. doesn't.
There may be some documents from the DHS, but in general, what you just said about the paper, keep all the paper, please. Everybody in our community doesn't like to keep paper. Keep the paper, you know, especially if you don't know what it means. You know, sometimes we get papers, we don't know what they mean, people in the community, and, you know, they'll describe a problem to me, and I'll tell them, okay, I need that, that, and that. And they say, oh, I don't know where it is. Well, to get it now to help the person in time is very difficult sometimes. So please, you know, somebody asked for advice the other day, what do you advise the community in general? The community in general needs to keep more paper. I mean, everything is important, you know.
After closing to buy a house, for example, and you buy everything, you sign the contract, what are the next steps of that? For example, are you going like to transfer the electricity bills, utility bills to your name? Also, how about the water bill department? Is it gonna be like, for example, under your name or the owner name or your friend? Can you do that? Or the water, like utility, is different from like phone, cable, internet bills? Yeah.
Definitely. So the electricity, you call DTE and you tell them this is my name, we're moving. They will shut off the old person, turn on the new person. That usually is one quick phone call. Comcast and all that stuff, come on, you have to call them and order new service. The water in most cities in Michigan, all of the cities that I'm aware of, as soon as you turn in the property transfer affidavit, that thing that has to be turned in within 45 days, they should switch the water over from that. That's how the city knows that you're the owner. The city doesn't check the Wayne County Register of Deeds.
So you have to go to the department for the city and you like turn the bill or this to your name, right?
Depending on the city, you may not have to. The property transfer affidavit should be enough, but I'm not sure about Detroit. Detroit, you may have a problem.
No, I'm talking about general, not just Detroit. Like for example, Macomb County, Oakland County, Gardner County, any county, Washington County.
The bill should come to the house. It should come to the house, and the owner of the house is known to the city now because you filed the property transfer affidavit. It says new owner or old owner.
So they send you the city send you like a letter to the house. Please come on, like change this to your name. Do they say that, or what they do, or you have to go there?
No, they won't. You have to turn in the property transfer affidavit, and that should be enough for them to know. If it's not enough, and they keep sending it in it shouldn't even say a name on it. I mean, sometimes it does, but really they send it to the property. They don't really care who the owner is.
I see.
I do have one more question. This is regarding donation. If I donated, say, to a masjid or to a good cause, or to Mother Waddles, or I donated a car, how much of that amount can I claim if I donated a car that's worth $4,500?
If you donate to a 501(c), you should
Be able to
claim the whole thing. Yeah.
When you file your taxes, do you have to provide proof that you donated a car, say, to a refugee or just another person, or not really?
I don't provide. I do my own taxes and TurboTax and this kind of thing. It's not. You should have the proof just in case you get asked, of course. But you don't have to have it to claim it. No. As long as you're not lying, you have nothing to worry about. Which sure is the case.
First of all, thank you so much for this nice, excellent lecture, and we thank the Yemeni American Chamber for this holding this nice culture. My question: when you have the city tax, they send you as a 0 coupon or 100 or 50. What does this mean?
This is the exemption that we were talking about earlier. So the 100% exemption means the whole house is being occupied by a family who lives in the house, the whole house. This would mean you're going to save 18 mils or $900 a year on a $100,000 home, just to give you an example. If it was 50%, it's usually a two-family home where only 50% is being occupied as a residence, the other 50% is being rented to someone else.
Yeah,
if it's not,
if you occupy the two family house,
this happens a lot.
And they charge you as a 50. So what do you do?
We challenge it because you usually it's a family.
Two family.
Same family though?
Yes, same family.
But two family house. Yeah, so you're both entitled to 50 and 50. In that scenario, meaning you're entitled to have the whole thing, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would challenge it through the city first, a local board of review, and then if they don't agree, it's actually the Department of Treasury. It's not the Michigan Tax Tribunal. And this we've done this, and you can go back 3 years on that one too. You can get your money back.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Any questions?
In our city of Hamtramck, every time there is a heavy rain, it affects the basement. The water come back and flooded the basement, and it affects everybody. Like all the homeowners, they lose their equipment, like washer, dryer, burners. They end up repairing them, and then at the end, the city will offer, okay, go fill out an application, and then they give people a couple $100, which, like the home where I live, we've been hit by it like 5 times in the last 6 years, and we never been to the city because at the end you're gonna come up with $100 or $150, and I'm not sure if it's from the county, the city, or from an organizations. So is the city responsible to pay the people back the full amount of their loss? And they should, they have to solve the problem at all? Because even if they pay you back for your equipment, you're still gonna get, the house gonna get molded, and then people's gonna get sick, kids who have asthma and allergies. And this has been a problem to the whole city.
It's a huge problem, and it happened, as you know, in 2014 in a big way in Dearborn. And if you drive up and down these streets in East Dearborn now, you're going to see the new streets, but they're actually new sewers. The new sewer lines, not just new streets. So we're pressuring the government. We may have to sue soon, but to answer your question is yes, the city is responsible. Why? The law says that if the city knows that they have a defect in the sewer system that they created, and they don't fix it within a reasonable amount of time, and it causes backup, that they're responsible. Usually you can't just sue the government for making mistakes. In Michigan we have a law that allows you to sue. It's not easy because we have to prove that it was their fault and that they didn't take reasonable steps. But what you're saying to me, I didn't know that Hamtramck has had that many incidents. I did not know that. So you need to speak to me, please, if you can, in another setting so we can figure this out.
There was a grant that...
But I'll tell you, I'm sorry, Afan, the mayor did respond to one email we were sending about this sewage stuff. She wasn't very happy, so apparently she was worried about this. It's a problem because these sewers are the oldest sewers in the country. Detroit, Dearborn, Hamtramck, this area, Highland Park, literally the oldest sewers in the country. I mean, you know, this kind of development. And they're falling apart, and it's going to take a lot of money to fix them. Thankfully, Dearborn has the money. Hopefully, Hamtramck will have the money. But, you know, you have to push. I'm not saying Dearborn has the money, that we shouldn't have had to spend this money. That's not my opinion. My opinion is we shouldn't have had to spend it, that they messed up, but they are fixing it. I don't know what they're doing in Hamtramck, so we need to look into that separately, but it's a big issue. I'm sorry, Afan.
Thank you.
The question was answered with your speech.
Oh, okay.
But there was, just for people that want to know, there was a grant from the federal government in Hamtramck, which I believe it was up to $4,000 or $5,000. You were able to get that money if you had a backup, if you qualified, of course, for the equipment and your insurance did not cover it. This was in 2014, I believe.
August.
Yeah.
That was a federal emergency management agency grant that some people got. But like you said, this is not sufficient because if your house is full of mold, the worst thing you can put into a house, other than like some poison or chemical that somebody intentionally created to kill people, is sewage, raw sewage, untreated sewage. I mean, it's the most toxic thing. Do you have any doctors here? Okay, so I'm not a doctor, but the EPA says that anything porous that's not like hajar, that's touched by this, has to be removed completely. And a lot of our people didn't know that, so they cut up maybe this high, and then they close the wall, and they put bleach. It's bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. So if anybody's smelling something, or someone comes into your house and smells it, you got to get it checked out because I mean it can really kill people. I mean we won some lawsuits.
It's poison,
It is poisonous. We have won a couple of we've settled a couple of lawsuits in other cities. The Dearborn one is huge. I mean you're talking 8,700 claims in one day. Those are not the people who didn't call. Those are the people that called and filled out the forms. So I mean it's huge. They created a water authority for the whole region now, and they're going to use some of that money to do certain projects. My worry is that they're not going to spend it in Hamtramck and Dearborn, they're going to spend it somewhere else.
Some I see for inspection, they say houses built before, for example, 1975 or 1978 has to be checked or inspected. I mean, what is the reasons? I know is there lead or rosas.
That's it.
That's it, or there are other reasons?
That's it. The
I
lead.
mean, the pipes there, or the kitchen, or
No,
what
the
they
lead
do,
on
or walls?
in the paint, yeah. The
The
lead in
paint.
the paint, yeah. You want to make sure that the you know there's at least a layer of non-lead paint, so that if it chips.
Inside the house, on the wall, inside,
Yeah.
this outside. Is it inside you mean, or outside?
Inside. I mean, outside, they probably still do have lead, but you want to be careful when you see any chipping, because you know there's a lot of layers. That's what we have to worry about. It is very bad for the kids.
Right.
Any chipping is what you have to worry about. But the lead-based paint disclosure, everybody just puts they don't know because they really don't know whether or not. It has
So if
lead
you
paint.
paint your house again, it would be perfect, or what you do?
That's all you can do.
Oh, okay.
That's all you can do. It's not perfect, but if it chips, falls on the floor,
Yeah.
you have to clean that up
Yes.
and repaint.
No
it.
problem then if you do.
Yeah, yeah.
You scrape it, then you paint it again.
I wouldn't scrape it.
What you do?
If you scrape it, you might create a bigger problem.
Okay.
I just paint over. If it chips, though, pick it up is what I'm saying. Make sure it's not chipping. If it is chipping, you gotta, fix it. Because if you try to strip it, you better go all the way,
Would be bad for health, you mean? Will be bad for health of the people living there in this house.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Especially the kids, they may be crawling on the floor,
Are we all set?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tarek, for this great seminars, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and also I want to just remind everybody, if you have any additional questions or if you need help about reducing your commercial property, please don't hesitate to contact the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce or contact Tarek Baydoun direct. Thank you so much for being here, and also don't forget there will be food served in the first floor of the cafeteria. Thank you for attending.
Before you leave, Bender, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Khalid. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's just take one pictures together with Tarek.